Back up a little bit and tell us, how did she get involved in the UN?
Well, when FDR dies on the 12th of April, 1945, after the funeral, she goes, and after she leaves Washington, she goes to her apartment in New York City, and there's a bunch of journalists waiting for her, and she says, "The story is over." And she really thinks the story is over. She'll be happy to be a journalist, which is her work. I mean, she continues her daily column, My Day, all through her life. And she hasn't missed, you know, a deadline, no matter where she is or what she's doing. From 1936 on, she is a journalist. But then Truman calls her, and Truman says, "I want you to go represent the United States in London at this founding meeting to create what is going to be the United Nations as we know it." And at first she hesitates. "Well, I know nothing about, you know, Robert's Rules of Order. I know nothing about protocol. I'm really not prepared." And her son, Frank, is with her, and he says, "Mother, you must not say no." And so she says yes, and Truman sends her. And at some point, you know, she becomes, I mean, she's on this team with people like John Foster Dulles and people who really dislike her, Republicans who are very conservative, and they really resent that she is getting more publicity than they do, and people all over Europe want to interview her, and the newspapers are always asking for her time, and so on. And at some point, the Soviets introduce economic and social rights, and the US delegation, led by John Foster Dulles, say, no, we can't do that. And then Truman says, that's a communist thing, economic and social rights. And Eleanor Roosevelt says, no, you can't talk human rights to people who are hungry. And if you want us not to support that, I will resign. And Truman doesn't want her to resign and says, no, don't resign. Follow your conscience. And so the US supports economic and social rights, as well as civil and political rights. I have to tell you, just to be political for a minute, the US has still not ratified the Economic and Social Rights Covenant.
But the economic and social rights belongs in the larger framework
of the Universal
Declaration, which the US does in general.
Well, the US
support.
I mean, Eleanor Roosevelt compromised. What she learned from her husband was the way to get things done in the United States, which is really a very conservative country, is that you compromise. And so she compromised and agreed so that the Southern Democrats would support the entire Universal Declaration of Human Rights, to have two covenants. So it wouldn't go into force until the two covenants were ratified. And so there's a political and civil covenants, which we supported, and then the economic and social covenants, which we allegedly didn't, but the whole unit passes. It is really interesting, in my opinion, that the US did not even vote for the civil and political covenant until 1991, when George Herbert Walker Bush said, now that the wall has come down, now that the Soviet Union has collapsed, it is time to ratify the civil and political rights.
Astonishing.
That late.
But what's intriguing here is that after Franklin dies, Eleanor seems to come into her own in the larger political sphere. That is, we know she's always worked in these projects and so on that she's interested in and for social justice, but now she can actually take a visible, active role in a global sense that turns her into a player in her own right, as it were.
Yes. Right.